Guys, welcome back to the SEC Recap Podcast. It's great to be in the SEC, especially this week because I'm coming at you with our second Game of the Week episode. That's right, there's two this week. I already put out the Florida-Georgia World's Largest Outdoor Cocktail Party Game of the Week pod. If you haven't listened to that one, go check it out. Coming at you today with Arkansas at Auburn. You can catch the article that has all the stats and other info in it on my website, secrecap.com/articles. This podcast is available anywhere you prefer to chug your podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, smash that like, that thumbs up, sub to the channel for new videos every single week. If you're listening in audio form, please head over to Spotify or Apple. Leave us a rating and review. It helps us grow the show. We appreciate it so much. And finally, give us a follow on Twitter at SEC Recap. All right, that's enough promo. Let's get into it. The Arkansas Razorbacks taking on the Auburn Tigers at Auburn. Game is kicking off at 11 a.m. Central Time. A lot of metrics have this game very close, and in fact, these two teams appear to match up really, really well this year. Auburn has owned Arkansas in 8 of the last 10 meetings, including the last 6 straight. We all know Auburn has underwhelmed this season, but Arkansas slumped in SEC play after a really hot start to the year. Both teams are 1-3 in conference play. Arkansas defeated South Carolina at home in week 2, and Auburn defeated Missouri in week 4. In SEC losses, check this out. Arkansas has been outscored 112-64. That's SEC games that they've lost. They've been outscored 112-64. Auburn has been outscored 111-61. 112-64 for Arkansas, 111-61 for Auburn. This game sets up really well for both teams to pull themselves up off the mat of the SEC West, but only one team is going to be able to earn that. So who's it going to be? Let's find out. Let's look at some stats on offense. Arkansas comes into this game with the number 44 offense in the country. That's scoring offense. They average 32.7 points per game, 488 yards, 6.4 yards a play, 75 plays a game, and about 30 minutes in time of possession. They've got 15 passing touchdowns and 14 rushing touchdowns on the year. They're very, very balanced on offense, averaging 248 through the air to 240 on the ground. Auburn, on the other hand, number 108 in scoring offense. Tigers are averaging just 22.3 points per game, 65 plays a game, just under 29 minutes in time of possession. They only have 5 passing touchdowns on the year. They've had some quarterback struggles now that Robbie Ashford's in. I think he's playing well. He's just a young QB, not super strong there. They've got 10 rushing touchdowns on the season. They are gaining 200 yards through the air to their 166 on the ground. But when they get down to the goal line, it's very clear they like to try to punch it in there with their strong running back core. They do have 10 interceptions on the season. So in this offensive matchup, I'm giving the advantage to Arkansas. Let's kick it on over to the defensive side. Arkansas rolls in with the 115th scoring defense in the country. They're giving up 32.6 points and 457 yards a game. They have a very, very bad pass defense, allowing 315 yards. They've given up 13 total touchdowns. In the run game, they're not too bad. They're only giving up 142, but they have given up 17 rushing touchdowns. So again, in that red zone, the goal line, they are susceptible to a strong rushing attack. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to it. Auburn checks in with the number 83 scoring defense in the country. A little bit better than Arkansas. They're averaging 28.3 points allowed and 391 yards a game. pass D and run D pretty balanced. They're giving up 186 through the air. Nice little stingy passing defense there, and 200 yards on the ground. Only given up 5 passing touchdowns on the season. They've given up 19 rushing touchdowns. So passing on this Auburn defense, pretty tough, but if you can get down there to the goal line, it's very possible to punch it in. I'm actually going to lean Auburn in the defensive matchup. Number 83 in scoring defense doesn't really scare you, but that is a pretty stingy pass defense. Key injuries here for Arkansas, man, they've had a slew of defensive injuries. It's been plaguing them all season. Latavius Brini, safety, ankle, he's questionable. Miles Slusher, also a safety. He's got a calf injury, he's questionable. Malik Chavis, safety, is probable for the game. Kari Johnson, quarterback, is probable. And then Bumper Poole, that star linebacker, stud there in the middle of the field, with a hip injury, he's questionable. I think he's been back at practice maybe, but favoring that hip just a little bit. For Auburn, not a lot coming out of Auburn as far as injury designations. We know Zach Calzada is out for the season at quarterback. TJ Finley, also quarterback, has got that shoulder injury. He's questionable, probably eligible to play or able to play if he needs to. Back in September, they also lost Tate Johnson, offensive line, with that elbow injury. I think he's going to be out at least another month, and that's being optimistic. So let's take a look at some key players. For Arkansas, no surprises here. Quarterback KJ Jefferson. As their run game goes, so goes this Razorback offense. KJ Jefferson spearheads this effort. He's got 91 carries for 344 yards and 4 touchdowns on the season. And you can't talk about the Arkansas run game without talking about Rocket Sanders. On pace to go over 1,000 yards this season. He's going to be a big factor in this game. Remember, the easiest way to hit Auburn is that run game. On the Auburn side, quarterback Robbie Ashford. I think he's improving week to week since stepping up as the starter. He has a lot of growing pains for sure, and he's made a lot of young quarterback mistakes. But I honestly believe he plays with a lot of effort, heart, and gives this team a chance to be in games. I'm also going to mention running back Tank Bigsby. Getting Tank Bigsby going will take a lot of pressure off of Robbie Ashford. When you have a game like this with 2 top-tier running backs in Bigsby and Sanders, I just don't know why you wouldn't feature both of those guys as the premier part of your offense. And then I'm also going to mention linebacker Owen Papo. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He leads the team in tackles and forced fumbles. Auburn's going to need a good performance from him to control that middle of the field and control the Razorbacks' run game. So what is this game going to come down to? Arkansas's run defense is much stingier than Auburn's. Arkansas has the 63rd run defense to Auburn's 119th run defense. But Arkansas's pass D is near the bottom of the FBS at 128. I just don't think the 63rd ranked run defense is going to scare someone like Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby is good enough to get going on Arkansas, and if he can, it's really going to take some of that pressure off of Robbie Ashford, and that'll let Ashford maybe hit Javarius Johnson on some routes on a super soft Razorbacks pass defense. Now, Auburn's pass defense is actually quite good. They have a top 20 pass defense in the country. So I think it will be to Arkansas's advantage to use KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders. Auburn's defensive strength actually plays to Arkansas's offensive strength. And it's just one of the reasons why I made this one of my games of the week. These teams just match up really, really well. Auburn's defensive strength in that pass D plays to Arkansas's offensive strength of that really, really strong run game. Now, there's also some intangibles happening in this matchup. There's some reports coming out of Auburn of Brian Harsin telling players that if they want to redshirt, they can either quit or transfer. And they've lost several high-profile signees to the transfer portal over the last year. And if these reports are true, it sounds like Harsin might be burning the bridge on his way out of town. Tom Green at Thomas Verde on Twitter, he's an Auburn beat reporter, got a quote from Brian Harsin when asking him about the report that he's been denying red shirts to players. I won't read the whole thing on here, but it's linked in the article, so go check that out. Again, secrecap.com/articles. This was Brian Harsin's response. Well, like I said earlier, obviously, every player that comes in, we know who has them. He's talking about red shirts. We monitor that, and we do every single week. It all goes back to what is needed and who's out there also putting themselves in position to be able to play and who can help us play. We monitor that as a staff. We continue to monitor that with guys. If they're not going to be able to go out there and play for us, and there's guys ahead of them and they're young players, if they have a red shirt year, that's usually when they're able to use it. Blah, 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 blah. It's coach speak. It's word salad. He's answering the question without answering the question. I have no doubt that this report is true, given the turmoil that's going on there. Look, the only way the administration could do anything about this right now would be to fire Harsin. But the AD, Alan Green, stepped down last month, and Auburn is in the middle of an AD search. I'm sure everyone connected to that search fully intends to let the next AD be the one to select the next head coach. Firing Harsin now would just make that AD search murkier, and I think they would rather get those ducks in a row first, let the season play out, then release Harsin and let the new athletic director pick his head coach. All of this to say that outside of the team and the player stats and the matchup, I'm not sure how high the morale is in that locker room right now. It could certainly be a factor on Saturday. Let's peek at the odds. ESPN's FBI actually has Auburn favored here at a 56.3% chance to win versus Arkansas at a 43.7% chance to win. But the spread favors Arkansas at -3.5, down from 4 at the time I'm recording this. So does the money line at -162, which is up from -185. The slight movement on this line makes me think that history comes back into play here, and Auburn is getting some love for being the home team, and they've dominated this series over the last 10 years. The over-under sits at 62 at the time I'm recording, with team totals for Arkansas at 31.2 and Auburn at 27.9. I don't have a strong feeling on this. I can see it just under with those team point totals, and I can also see it being kind of a boat race to 40 with these teams' defensive vulnerabilities. So my final prediction: Auburn has owned Arkansas in this series over the last decade. The players have a home field advantage and a cheering home crowd at their back. I don't doubt that players on that team and coaches on that staff are competitive and want to win. But there is a whole lot of additional noise, and I'm not talking about cheering crowds invading that Auburn locker room lately, and I don't know how well they're going to be able to block that out. Arkansas doesn't have to deal with any of that. Because of the matchup, I think this game may be close, but Arkansas is able to do just a little more with a more experienced quarterback and a lot less turmoil on the sideline. I'm calling this game Arkansas 31, Auburn 28. Auburn covers, but barely. The rest of my Week 9 SEC predictions: Florida at #1 Georgia. That's in my other featured game of the week pod and article, so go check that out. secrecap.com/podcast. You can also check us out on YouTube, SEC Recap Podcast. Missouri at number 25, South Carolina. I think it's going to end up with a weird score, like 26-20. South Carolina's a little bit better than Missouri. Missouri's offense just struggles to finish with points. So give me the Gamecocks 26-20 there. Number 15, Ole Miss at Texas A&M. I still haven't figured out this line since I recorded the Florida-Georgia episode yesterday. Ole Miss -2.5 on the road. I just don't know what to do with that. I find it hard to believe that Texas A&M would be remotely competitive in this game after what I've seen. So I'm still going to have to wait a day to figure out what's going on there, but give me Ole Miss. Not sure what the final score is going to be. And then probably one of the biggest games of the weekend, number 19 Kentucky at number 3 Tennessee. Kentucky's coming off a bye week. They have a ton of talent, experienced quarterback, one of the best running backs in the league. But this Tennessee team is so hot right now. I just don't think Kentucky is going to be able to slow down that offense enough to keep up with the scoring. Give me Tennessee 37-27. By the way, if I've got any Kentucky and Tennessee fans listening, I've got merch. I've got Beer Barrel Apparel, rivalry merch. You can check it out on my Bonfire store, bonfire.com/store/SEC recap. We've got Kentucky Beer Barrel Champ shirts. We've got Tennessee Beer Barrel Champ shirts. And since Tennessee's going full dark mode for this game, I even made some dark mode designs of the Beer Barrel shirts. So go check that out again, bonfire.com/store/SEC recap. That's going to do it for the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate all of you for listening, whether you're listening to the podcast on Amazon or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. Thank you so much. If you're listening on YouTube, please smash that thumbs up, sub to the channel, connect with me on Twitter at SEC Recap. Have a great week. Guys, have an awesome weekend of college football, and I'll see you next week right here on the SEC Recap.